this isn't just some other Kickstarter gadget. The developers saw things like the Flipper Zero and the Arduboy, and they wanted to be part of that community. I've had it recommended to me a couple times, but honestly, I feel like it's one of the most slept-on Kickstarters I have seen in a long time. This is POOM. This adorable little device has 4 separate modes depending upon what you're trying to do with it. And after talking to the devs, you can tell this is a project made with love. If you notice you haven't really heard much about it, it's because they took all their money, put it into production, not advertising. That's something I can get behind. Inspired by projects like the Arduboy and the Flipper Zero, they wanted to make a product that is pretty much an all-in-one, and I really think they accomplished it. Alright, so that's enough intro for today. This is POOM.
This video is for educational purposes only. Only test your own hardware. Doing otherwise is illegal. Don't be a skid.
Alright, so I guess really the first thing to do is just to hop on down to the Kickstarter and see what POOM's all about. Alright, so here's the Kickstarter, link down below, and actually I've got this extra special link for you guys to get a discount, so make sure to check that out. So one thing you'll notice right here, we can scroll down a little bit, they only had a $10,000 goal, and they're only at about 20 grand, which really isn't that much for most of these projects. They really haven't spent a ton of money or anything on marketing, so I think it's kind of held them back a little bit from the generating funds standpoint, but you know, they're making a really cool project, and I think at the end of the day, it'll work out for them. So let's go ahead and check out the trailer. So right off the rip, you can see it has NFC, which is actually one of the more useful things I use on the Flipper Zero, so great feature.
Not long ago, a new device was born. Its name, POOM, the maker.
So this is what I was saying before, it's got multiple different modes. It's super cool. So let's check out Maker Mode. This is going to enable some GPIO functions, ICE2C, all sorts of great stuff.
It's a fully open source. With a quick connector, you can add anything. It has an SD card slot, USB-C for charging and debugging, and a low-power MCU.
Now, when they first started this project, they were going to make it with a ESP32C6. However, because the ESP32C5 just came out and that's tri-band, that makes it so much more useful. So it's absolutely amazing that they've updated it to the C5.
And with NAN node, you can trigger automations on call webhooks. The Zen Mode creates sound for movement.
Okay, so this is a really cool idea. They've got Zen Mode, which is basically looks like an accelerometer-controlled music creation thing. It's air guitar, I don't know, it's neat. Is it necessary? Who knows, maybe it's the most fun function of this thing when you're not using it to do, you know, other stuff. It's cool, I like it. I think it's cool.
With the NFC RFID wallet, carry Metro cards, office badges, and built-in access all in one device. Store any signal. The gamer. POOM is your Bluetooth controller. Ready for...
So they actually directly cited the Arduboy. My buddy Cal had a 30+ minute long interview with the devs for POOM. It's really cool. Go watch it. Check out his channel. Awesome stuff. But yeah, they were really inspired by that particular device. So they took a lot of the inspiration from the Arduboy and brought it directly into POOM.
For Mac OS, Windows, or Android, it runs the full Arduboy library. Over 200 games from the open source community.
Yeah, 200 open source games. Super, super cool that you can actually add that many decent games. Plus, it's got a real controller setup. It's not like trying to play games on a Flipper Zero. It actually looks pretty useful, honestly.
The Beast. Pentest. Analyze. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Thread, Matter, Wi-Fi 6, phone spoofing, and drone ID, war driving, Wi-Fi sniffers, the authored, SSID spammers, Wireshark integration, all the hacking tools. It's not a hacking device.
Okay, so that's a lot to kind of dig into. That is full-on pretty much Flipper Zero plus Wi-Fi. Again, they've got a lot of protocols that they're covering, and it seems to be like an extremely capable device. I'll spoil the secret. Right now for Kickstarter, it's starting at about $100, which is a great deal.
Seriously. But remember, POOM can be anything you want it to be. POOM. Pentest. Play. Create. Back us now on Kickstarter.
I'm super psyched for this device because it feels like kind of a breath of fresh air in what's turning into a pretty saturated market. Alright, so time to keep scrolling down and check out the Kickstarter. So right now at the time of filming, which is probably a week before you see it, there are 11 days to go, which means if you want to grab one of these during the Kickstarter, you're going to have to work quick. So again, link down below and save a few bucks. Alright, let's keep moving. So yeah, you can see that we have the early bird special for $99. And if we scroll down the sidebar here, backers, and yeah, you can still get it for that. And again, remember, use the link. I don't know what the discount is, but I know there's a discount. So yeah, I said this is POOM. It's an open source, and actually I'm going to say it wrong a bunch, POOM, and it's actually POM. They wanted to initially name it Pong, P-O-N-G, but for obvious reasons, can't do that, so it's POM. Again, I'm sorry if I say it wrong, it's just brain mush, not great. This is POM, an open source multi-tool made to pentest, play, create. It's for makers, security learners, gamers, and anybody who loves to explore how tech works. POM is a multi-tool packed with 4 different modes. And now we can look at some actual tech specs on here. Super easy. We've got a single cell LiPo battery. So it's got kind of a coin battery. So it's, I don't know what the battery life is on it, but we'll have to wait and see. A lot of times you can actually upgrade those batteries to something a little bit more substantial, especially if you can print your own cases. Because remember, this thing's pretty small. So we might be able to get a little bit of added battery in there. So they've got the touch buttons and a D-pad. What's interesting is they actually went for membrane keys because they wanted a certain button feel to it, which honestly, like, you could just throw on any buttons on there and most people won't notice, but they went the extra mile and went for membranes, which I thought really showed that they're putting in the extra fit and finish to this device. So it will have Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6, 2.4, because it's got the ESP32C5. Can't go wrong there, BLE5. And then again, they've got Zigbee, Thread, and Matter. They do have the 6-axis IMU accelerometer, which is what you're using to make the music and stuff. I'm super interested to see how this thing works. When I get one in hand, I'll make a hands-on video with this because honestly, I think this might be one of the more popular devices out there, especially seeing as kind of how underground it is. I feel like it's going to be kind of a cult classic for those who know. Then it does have, yeah, a 13.56 megahertz RFID reader and writer with NFC. So it checks a lot of boxes. So you can see the device right here, and it does share an homage or something to the Arduboy. It's got a very similar fit and finish and function and size, which again, really good size. Transparent polycarbonate shell too, polycarbonate. It's not acrylic or anything like that, so it shouldn't scratch as easily, which also shows that this is a more finished product than you see a lot of times, because most of these prototypes, they're just kind of junk. And this is a real device. They really have it. You saw it in the video, and they actually demonstrated it to Cal on that interview. They had it, they broke it out, they were running through the menus, they were using the actual device. They did say that they were in the prototype 2 stage at this point, because they made their first prototype. Turns out you make it right the first time and it works. All right, moving on. Select your mode. So yeah, now we get back into the mode. We have the maker mode, so you can use your favorite IDEs. Everything's open source. And yeah, is it I2C or I2C? I always get those wrong, but yeah, you can make your own automations, which is just really cool because products like these are not meant to be the end-all be-all best for every single application. It's a broad learning platform. That is what made the Flipper Zero so amazing. That's what made the Flipper Zero community so large, is that you could kind of play with so many different protocols, play with so many different things. No matter who you are, there's something you can mess with and something you can learn. That's the important part. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, so we have the I2C scanner, I2C, whatever. You can use mesh hooks, use Home Assistant and things like that. And it's got its own embedded API. So here we go. We have the Zen Mode. So this is the NFC card wallet and emulator. So this is where you're going to store any cards or things that you have permission to copy. Remember, never test anything that isn't either your own or that you have expressed written permission to test. We're here to learn stuff. We're not here to do anything that's against the rules. Now we have our gamer mode, which I think is super fun. It does have the BLE HID, which just means human interface device that connects over Bluetooth. So you can hook up your computer, use it to control video games, all sorts of things like that if you want to use that. However, it has the Arduboy integration. So you've got open source games, hundreds of them, at your fingertips that you can use, and they're all free because they're open source. Open source community, you guys, absolutely awesome. Anybody who puts their time, energy, effort into making something, it's free for everyone, and they can even see how it works. You guys are legends, absolute legends. All right, now we get to beast mode. I love how they have little avatars for all these guys too, because again, it just makes it more fun. I think part of the thing that got people into Flipper Zero was the idea of having it like a virtual pet. Now you've got 4 different virtual friends that you can do different things with. Then we have beast mode. This is our blue and red team functionality. So it has diagnostic tools that allow you to scan your environment and see if somebody's actually trying to attack you. So that's very useful to know, because if you're ever having Wi-Fi problems, you're trying to think to yourself, what's going on? Is something actually happening? Is my Wi-Fi bad? Or is somebody potentially trying to gain access to my computer or my test system? This lets you know. It also has pen testing attacks. In my case, I have a completely separate test environment for testing these features so that there's no way that I could even accidentally capture anything I'm not supposed to, because again, we're ethical hackers. We're just trying to learn how these things work. We can see it down here. We've got the different logging, and they mention for authorized lab analysis only. Again, we are ethical hackers, and this is not a malicious tool. This is a learning tool. So we can see the different toolkits that we have on Wi-Fi here, as well as Bluetooth. All the things that we're used to seeing on any capable Wi-Fi tool. Let's check out the general configurations down here. We have USB-C, which is, kind of a given at this point in time. Motion sensor, the USB console mode, so you can console directly in there. Pretty neat. SD card slot. We have the ESP32C5 on the bottom here, and that provides us with our wireless connectivity. And then we have a I2C port on the side. So of course, because you have CLI, you can just terminal into it and start controlling it from that way, because some of you console commanders out there just need to be able to terminal into stuff. Also, DFU updates, which is extremely useful. If you are somebody who likes to mess with their hardware, you will potentially brick your device doing something silly here or there. I can't even tell you how many times I bricked my Flipper Zero because I'm building my own firmware and I did something wrong. I did a semicolon instead of a period or a comma or God knows what. Okay, cool. Yeah, you can actually launch the POOM in an AP mode and do a web file manager. So you can, drop files from your phone. Very cool. So yeah, they basically sprinted through the entire prototyping and design stages of this thing. If they didn't have a product in hand, I would call the absolute most shenanigans out of this, just like I did with Interrupt, and just like I wish I had done earlier with things like the Cyber Pro and the M1. I've become kind of standoffish on Kickstarters, but when you have people that are this connected and people that care this much about their project and who have working prototypes, that really pushes me towards okay, we might be able to stand behind this project. So they got their first prototype done in June or July, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Sorry, I don't know which number months are. I literally have to count on my fingers every time someone's like, what's the expiration date on this? And I'm like, sorry. Anyway, so yeah, August they started getting user feedback and a second version of the prototype, and they're working on firmware after that, and this is their launch in January. They are aiming to ship April or May, and hopefully they don't run into any hitches, any roadblocks. Hopefully they're able to push it out that quick. If it takes a few more months, I really wouldn't fault them, but it seems like they're right there right now. And yeah, they have actually, the concepts are done in January, proof of concept in February, March, April is the firmware and hardware. And it looks like their first prototype was done by none other than PCBWAY. It's no surprise that POOM uses PCBWAY to make their PCBs, because literally it couldn't be easier. Plus, PCBWAY has engineers on staff to help you every single step of the way in case you have any stumbling points. You can print single layer, double layer, up to 14 layers, and even more if you really need to. You can solder mask in green, red, yellow, blue, white, black, purple, matte black, matte green, all sorts of cool stuff. Plus, their engineers can help you if you have any questions or any parts that you might be confused about. They'll make sure that it gets done right the first time. Head on down to PCBWAY.com for a free instant quote. Thank you so much for the continued support. You guys are absolutely awesome. All right, let's get back at it. I told you, PCBWAY does such a great job on everything. I'm not surprised that they use them for the prototype. When we move on, we've got August was their video production, because, it takes time to make videos. Turns out this stuff ain't easy. And then September was their final testing, and then we're launching in January. Now, Ilya actually already did a video on the Kickstarter as well, and there's the developer interview I was talking about. So scroll down, check out those videos. Nobody has one in hand yet. This is a little bit of AI Shenanigans by Ilya, but we kind of play the game sometimes. Yeah, definitely check out this interview. It was great. Those guys are absolute sweethearts. Very, very cool. All right, so that is POOM. It's one of the most fun projects I've seen in a while. Having 4 completely different modes to do 4 completely different things, I think is a lot of fun. What mode are you most excited about? I actually really want to mess around with the music mode and see how that works, but again, it's got so many other features on there, and we can test out that beast mode. Do you have any other Kickstarters you want me to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, thank you guys so much. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a ton. You guys are absolute legends, and we'll catch you next time.